Silent Hill has always taught us an uncomfortable truth, that the bloodiest altars are built by human hands, that the gods, if they exist, are often nothing more than mirrors reflecting our own madness. But what if, in this town, the true monsters weren't the deities lurking in the fog, but the humans willing to sacrifice everything in their name? Welcome to Rotten Donut. Let's begin with the seed of it all, the ancient myths that poisoned this place. Let's start with the legends behind the town. According to the game's documents, especially the Diary of Revenge, everything traces back to an old legend. As described in the Nihon Shoki, one of Japan's oldest historical chronicles, Yamata no Orochi was a colossal 8-headed dragon that demanded the sacrifice of beautiful young maidens to devour. Upon hearing this, the wild deity Susanoo brought 8 barrels of sake and lured the dragon into drinking them. Once Yamata became intoxicated, Susanoo slew the creature by cutting off all 8 of its heads. Legend has it that one of those heads descended upon Higa no Kuni, what we now call Ebisugaoka. Though it sounds like mere legend, it was most likely the way ancient people made sense of natural disasters. Floods, earthquakes, epidemics, interpreting them as manifestations of the divine. From this duality between the sacred and the profane emerges one of the game's greatest questions. Are the horrors experienced by Hinako a punishment from the gods, or merely the result of ancient beliefs and the madness of humankind? This ambiguity didn't take long to be exploited. As the Diary of Revenge suggests, it's easy to see how some unscrupulous people put a religious spin on the city's deadly vapors to make a profit, even twisting famous stories to back up their claims. Ritual after ritual, faith turned into a business. The town ended up with 2 sides. On one hand, those who used fear to get power and money. On the other, genuine believers willing to do anything to keep alive a faith that gave meaning to the chaos. Originally, the object of worship was a 1,000-year-old cedar, revered as a divine vessel. But one day it was struck by lightning and consumed by flames. With the loss of their spiritual focal point, the town's faith shifted to the moss-covered Inari statues. This fusion of the Tsukumogami belief with the Inari cult created a unique religious tradition in the region. Over time, the identity of the god they worshipped gradually changed, a desperate effort by the town to calm the catastrophes that plagued them. Tsukumo gave way to Inari, the deity of fertility and foxes, and with this change came the Tsuneki family, heirs to the tradition, guardians of the Tsuneyoshi Shrine, and ultimately, the wealthiest and most prestigious family in the town, becoming the true center of Inari worship in Silent Hill F. The clan's patriarch performed sacred rituals to calm the dragon's fury, offering cooked food as a sign of respect. But when that failed, legend says they sealed the creature beneath the lake, using enormous stones as both a barrier and a final offering. It cannot be ruled out that in ancient times the Tsuneki may have even offered human victims, possibly young women, during the most devastating floods. While these records remained hidden, the documents and symbols found in the game leave too many clues to dismiss this chilling possibility. After centuries of rituals and control over the village's spiritual power, Ebisugaoka developed another peculiarity. It was a place where more women were born with what the Tsuneki clan called blood blessed by the stars. These blessed women also appear in other mythological contexts, referring to individuals whose blood possesses an unusual spiritual energy. According to the game's writings and the note titled A Perspective on Hierogamy, this gift had a more literal than mystical explanation. In other words, these women were not only chosen by faith, but could biologically possess a unique trait in their blood, interpreted as a divine blessing. The Tsuneki family believed that marrying women with this type of blood increased their own spiritual power and brought them closer to the gods. It was an alliance between faith and genetics. The interesting thing is that, even if the truth of this belief was doubtful, what mattered was not whether it was real, but keeping the tradition alive. And, as is often the case in Silent Hill, when tradition outweighs reason, horror is never far behind. In Ebisugaoka, that horror took the shape of the Tsuneki family itself. Once seen as protectors of faith, now consumed by it. Unlike Kotoyuki, who seems guided by good intentions, as we can see in the letters he wrote to Hinako, the rest of the Tsuneki family acts more like a group of religious fanatics. Some of the documents found in the game read like actual indoctrination manuals, designed to ensure that future generations would continue the family's devotion without ever questioning it. Although Hinako fears her father, the true threat comes from the clan as a whole. Everything suggests that she witnessed something unspeakable at the Tsunayoshi Shrine, the very place where the clan's ritual weddings were held. The family believed that marrying women whose blood was blessed by the stars increased their spiritual power, strengthening both their traditions and their influence within the community. Their rituals and practices were not limited to religious ceremonies. They often involved acts of control and domination over the participants, blurring the line between faith and coercion. One thing you need to know is that after World War II, it was no longer necessary to receive imperial permission to hold authority over a shrine. But by that point, the Tsuneki had already consolidated near absolute control within their temples, allowing them to perform rituals and practices that, according to several records, went far beyond mere devotion. While Kotoyuki stands as an exception, driven by genuine love rather than ambition, the rest of the clan embodies a dangerous fanaticism, one capable of bending everyone to its will and ensuring that the Tsuneki legacy of power and faith would continue unchallenged. This obsession with preserving their lineage and spiritual power wasn't limited to rituals alone. It also extended to their very identity, rooted in the belief that their bloodline descended from something far older and far more powerful than any human god. The Tsuneki family claimed to be descendants of Kyubi, the legendary nine-tailed fox. In Japanese folklore, the Kyubi is a yokai, a supernatural being both cunning and dangerous. There are real shrines in Japan that revere Kyubi, and ceremonies like the Kagura dance dedicated to the fox spirit. In Silent Hill F, that same ambiguity remains. It's never entirely clear whether Kyubi is a god, a yokai, or both. The Tsuneki family inherited that duality, half devotees, half monsters, reflecting their descent into religious obsession and fanaticism. Now we reach the game's climax, the grand finale, the ending we obtain after completing the story for the first time. We know that Hinako's wedding takes place at the Tsunayoshi Shrine, the sacred temple of the Tsuneki family. Everything appears to be a traditional ceremony, until something goes terribly wrong. The tragic outcome is triggered by Shu and the pills that drive our protagonist into a state of psychosis. Hinako flees amid the chaos, leaving several people injured. The police report only that 2 men were found, one in cardiac arrest. The suspect is a woman in her 20s. As we watch the scene, the guests seem to vanish without a trace. Only blood, the pipe, pills, scratches, and numbered evidence remain. Yet the entire place feels eerily empty. It's interesting to note that we only hear the police transmission. There are no sirens, ambulances, cries, or desperate voices. Even when they mention finding an unconscious person showing no signs of breathing and 10 more bodies on the ground, there are no relatives or witnesses reacting. The scene is disturbingly silent and desolate. When we put this into perspective, it's incredibly strange that the police never mention the Tsuneki name, and never mention Hinako's name at all. How could it be that no one knew the name of the bride or groom, especially considering the family's position in the town? There are 2 possible interpretations. First, the witnesses fled in panic, leaving the police with no one to question, so Hinako could only be identified by her wedding dress and approximate age. Second, the Tsuneki family manipulated the authorities, covering up evidence and concealing their connection to the crime. The cold, detached tone of the police transmission reinforces this idea. It conveys no sense of shock or fear, instead suggesting that something far deeper and more organized is taking place. In the end, the true horror of Silent Hill F lies not in the supernatural, but in the human, in how tradition, fanaticism, and the obsession of the Tsuneki family consume lives, control destinies, and shape generations. Hinako and Tokoyuki are trapped in this legacy, caught between duty, faith, and the suffocating weight of tradition, forced into roles they never chose. The ritual wedding at Tsuneyoshi Shrine and the chaos that erupts are no mere accidents. They are the culmination of centuries of control, manipulation, and sacrifice. The clan's spiritual corruption takes physical form in the floral infestation that overtakes Ebisuga Oka, a haunting reminder that every act of blind faith leaves scars that cannot be erased. Every petal, every root, bears witness to the Tsuneki history. Spilled blood, dark rituals, and inherited horrors. The town's past isn't buried beneath the soil. It blooms before our eyes, visible in the decay and tragedy the family has cultivated over generations. Silent Hill F shows us that when tradition and fanaticism overshadow reason and freedom, terror is no longer a legend. It becomes tangible, pervasive, and inescapable. And as we've seen, the secrets of the Tsuneki family are key to understanding the mystery behind Silent Hill F. And if you want to uncover more clues like this one, subscribe to Rotten Donut, where we'll keep breaking down the hidden symbols and deeper connections within the game. See you in the next video!